Poecilotheria regalis. So that's on the go at the moment. I'm recording that with another camera, so I thought I'd just get another quick video up and running. So yesterday I received messages into the Facebook page, just asking some questions really about keeping different tarantulas, about different species and things like that. And it occurred to me that I've never actually done a video about, like, you know, handling the venom of, you know, different species, old world, the difference between old world, new world, etc. Husbandry, different things like that. So obviously I'm not claiming to be perfect with this. There are things that I need to do. I know that there are things that I need to do. I know that there's some of my tarantulas that need rehousing, you know, giving more substrate, etc, whatnot. So not claiming to be perfect, so I just wanted to get that done first thing. I'm still learning myself. This is just allowing you guys who don't know to learn with me, and anybody who knows more, or, you know, spots that I may say anything wrong, whatever, drop it in the comments and correct me if I am. Messages, and I just thought I'd do it. You know, not everybody, I thought, you know, I've never done one before. I thought maybe people would have already seen those types of videos from other YouTubers, bigger channels, etc. So I thought, you know, I don't want to be doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. I want to try and make my videos a little bit different. But yeah, I think because I'm getting those messages, and I suppose I can't take it for granted or just presume that everybody watches these other channels who, again, may not be right with what they're doing. They may not be right with the husbandry, things that they're saying, etc. So I thought I'd do my videos, give my opinion, and give you the thoughts on what I think. So I'm just going to get some of the messages up that I received yesterday, and then some of the advice that I gave as well, so anybody else who wants to know can know. Okay, so one of the first questions that I asked was just, it was from somebody who messaged the page anyway. I'm not going to give names just in case the person doesn't want me to or anything. But you know who you are anyway. I asked how much feeders that I use. I sort of explained, you know, that I don't know exactly how many feeders I'm using, but I do tend to use different types of feeders. But, you know, for like my adults, sub-adults, I do tend to use, sometimes I use dubias. I tend to use red runners, so I've got my own red runner colony, which is good because when you're breeding them you can get all different sizes. So you can get some that are good for your slings, they're good for your juvies, they're good for your adults, etc. And it just saves. They're really, really easy to breed. Keep them dry, keep them fed, keep them watered. So we just use bulls for the water. The first time, a couple of times I tried it, I used a lid on the red runner tub that I use anyway. And I started getting mould, so there wasn't enough ventilation. So then I started using tub with egg crates, and I'd have a pot which is just easy enough to grab in and out, half of it containing the bug balls in another little circle pot, and the other half containing food. So bits of, you know, dry dog food, carrot, etc. Oranges, they love oranges from the scent. Keep them warm, keep them fed, keep them watered, etc. And then I used some mesh, like what I use for separating the substrate and some of the enclosures where you need to add a drainage layer. So I used some of that just for a lid, and I've just done it so half of it folds back, the rest is hot glue gun down on the other half. And that's perfect, not had any mould, it's got enough ventilation. So yeah, so that's what I do for them, and they're good for feeding generally all different size teas, all different species. Sometimes I use mealworms. If the mealworms are tiny, I might chop them up. Sometimes I just put them in, leave them. If they haven't gone by the next day, the next morning, I'll just take them out of the enclosure so they don't go mouldy. We'll use waxworms again for some like juveniles, some mealworms for juveniles, as well as the red runners. So bits of everything, like to mix it up. Don't always feed them the same. And then for your adults, dubias, and predominantly red runners or Mario worms every now and again as well. So that's my feeder. So I'm not sure on how much I actually feed them, like how much I get through in a month, but this person bred them anyway, so it was just a question on, you know, roughly how many I use, because he keeps them and breeds them, all of the feeders himself. So that was the first one, about what I feed my tarantulas. I normally feed my slings twice a week, and then I feed my adults normally once a week if they'll eat. If not, I just take it out and try them again a week later. I don't keep trying to feed them day in, day out. If they don't eat one week, they're not eating until the next week. So another question they asked was about, because obviously I put the post up about trying to pair the Regalis, so I tried again. This was yesterday, and I'm trying again today. But because I put the post up, so we just asked, he said he had a Regalis juvenile, and just wanted to ask if they're handleable. He says that his is quite skittish and obviously quite bolty. So my response is, for me, any tarantula I wouldn't really handle. I think I've handled, the only tarantula I've ever purposely handled was my Avic Avic, and that was when it got out of the enclosure and I needed to get it back in. It was proving difficult, and it ended up getting on my hand, which was during one of my previous videos, and I handled the Avic Avic then, and I've only ever done that once. Other than that, I've not handled any teas, and I wouldn't recommend it either. Whether they're Old World or New World, it only takes that tarantula to want to be a little bit skittish, to bolt a little. If it makes you jump, or if it does bite, or you know, goes to strike or whatever, it's human nature just to fling, you know, or get defensive and jolt. If that tarantula falls, you know, it could be death. It could result in death for that tarantula. So you've got to think about not only yourself and your own health and safety, or anyone else who's around you when you're handling your tarantulas, but also you've got to think of the health of the tarantula itself. So that's why I don't handle like your New Worlds, for instance. Old Worlds, I think it's just a bit of a silly idea. You know, they don't like to be handled. They don't like to be disturbed. They're very comfortable just being in an enclosure, left alone, being fed, water dish, if that, and that's it. They get most of the water from the prey. So that, you know, some species I don't even add a water dish into the enclosure. I missed it if I need to, and then as long as they're being fed, normally they've got enough water. So yeah, I don't handling Old Worlds for me is irresponsible. You know, a lot of Old Worlds have quite potent venom. They are more defensive. You know, so rather than running away, they will more than likely tend to strike. So I was just giving a bit of information about the Poecilotheria regalis. So take the regalis for instance, you know, they have got potent venom. They are an Old World species. They're probably one of the calmer Poecilotheria species, and I've seen people on Facebook and in different groups handling them. You know, they've got them on their arms, they've got them on the chest. If that bites you, you're gonna know about it. It's not a good idea. You know, some people might have different reactions to the venom. It could cause pain or aches for weeks. It's just, why do it? Why not just leave the tarantula alone, not put the tarantula at risk? If you do get bit through handling it purposely, then you've only got yourself to blame. It's a stupid idea as far as I'm concerned. Other people might have views, but for my opinion, this is my video, my opinion, bad idea, don't do it, there's no need. So I've also had some questions which, you know, probably some people might not say is my strongest point or whatever, about some husbandry for some tarantulas. You know, the way I see it is, yes, tarantulas need to burrow. You need to give, if it's a fossorial species, you need to give it enough substrate to burrow. People say mimic it like you would in the wild. The wild is a big place. The soil goes very, very deep in the wild. Unless there's anybody out there with like a 3-foot, 6-foot container full of substrate that they let the tarantula burrow in, fair play to you, but I just haven't got the space for that. I try to do the best I can with what I've got. I understand that some of mine need rehousing. I'm not disputing that my husbandry is perfect for those, and I have also outlined in my previous video that there are a few in there that I need to rehouse. I try to do the best that I can with what I've got, and if I need to, I'll get bigger enclosures and then move them along when I can. So yeah, so for instance, one of the examples I use for a fossorial, let's just go over here. So you'll have seen her before in the pairing video that I've done. So let's just turn the light around so we've got a bit of light. Okay, so that's a fossorial species in here, and that's our Hysterocrates gigas. So I've got one of the biggest enclosures that you can get from Tarantula Room, filled it pretty much to the way to the top with substrate, and she's burrowed, not gone all the way to the bottom, but she's burrowed near enough to the bottom and gone down from here, all the way down, and she's then gone all the way around the enclosure. And if I can get the light over her, I might be able to get a little clip of her. There you go, so you can see her in there. So that's the Hysterocrates gigas female that we've recently paired, and I'm hoping that I'll get an egg sac from her, maybe the end of don't know if the end of November, maybe the end of December. But yeah, she's a beautiful girl. Hey, that's enough, you know. In the wild, obviously, there's going to be a lot more deeper substrate than there is there. However, I don't live in the wild, and I've give it what it needs. That's enough. For my arboreals, as you can see here, I give substrate, decent amount of substrate, I believe, for an arboreal, and then I always make it go up slightly at the back, a little bit deeper. So when I add the cork bark in, they can create a burrow at the bottom of the cork bark, and they normally just like to make a little burrow at the bottom as a hide, and then they come out of an evening and of a night. So it's the same for all of them, and as you can see, they just kick out the excess dirt, and there you can see from the back, obviously it goes higher further up the cork bark, and they make the hide. Flamingo chilus species Carpenteri, or the Sulawesi black, it's actually now the Lampropelma Carpenteri. So I do need to relabel that, still haven't done it, a bit sloppy on my behalf. And again, you get it, same for here, same for the Flamingo chilus Sabo Blue. Again, she's a bit of a weird one actually. So she did start to make a little burrow here, then she made a burrow down the back of the cork bark, and that goes all the way down underneath the front, so it comes down all under here, and then she actually has got another entrance coming out here as well. And normally you can see her through here, but it looks like she's actually webbed up the side a little bit more and kicked some of the dirt up. But she comes out of the night, and she normally ends up coming out of this entrance, to be honest, rather than up the back of the cork bark, and then she comes out and just sits in the cork bark. Lovely. Balfouri over here. So again, you've got your couple of inches of substrate, goes up more at the back, which is really bad to tell from this angle, but it does go up on a slant. And then she's just webbed underneath the cork bark, and her hide is underneath this leaf here, the leaf here, the leaf over there. So she hides underneath there, she's webbed it all up, made herself a lovely little entrance, and again, she loves life, she's always out, she's very active, webbing the enclosure up nicely. She's only been in here for just not long before we moved house. Here's another one. So this one is another one of my fossorial species. So this is the Ceratogyrus marshalli, which I did record me rehousing, but I lost all the footage. So just from when I showed you the enclosure in one of the previous videos, it was when she first went in there. Even though she's a fossorial species, the substrate goes a lot deeper at the back of the enclosure than at the front. She's chose to create her burrow at the front, and she's just built the tunnel up herself. So she's got a little web tunnel here, and then she's tunnelled all the way underneath, and she comes out over here. But she very, very rarely, I've never seen her come out of that yet, she always comes out the front, and she's always up the glass here. Fossorial species, as long as they've got enough room to burrow, for me personally, I know some people keep them in different types of enclosures. For me personally, as long as they're in a good 45 by 45 enclosure, you've got the depth up to a good extent, and they've also got the space to burrow across as well. For me, I find that quite acceptable. These types of enclosures, however, can prove a little bit difficult if you do need to get the tea out. This one's not too bad because it's quite big. if you do need to get the tea out. And also a point's been made recently as well about breeding in this type of enclosure for fossorial species. It can prove quite difficult, and I agree completely. I think personally, when I want to breed one of my fossorial species, I won't be breeding it in this enclosure. I will be putting it into another temporary enclosure for the pairing. Just because if you've got how here, like the tunnels at the front, it restricts me opening this door. I can only open this door. If a male was to go down in there, the chances of him getting out alive or me being able to intervene if needed would be very, very slim. So for pairing, I wouldn't do it. For keeping it in here as a whole, I think that should be fine. So we've got our female geniculata over here who's just butchered her enclosure. It did look all nice and pretty that Rach had done it, but then she's just lobbed a flower over here, started webbing up, etc. But again, yeah, terrestrial, a few inches of substrate. It really doesn't look a lot from the video, but if I pull the enclosure out, it's a bit awkward. You can see it actually does go quite deep at the back. It's a good, like, say 4 or 5 inches at the back, and then down to about 3 inches at the front. And that's fine. Again, a little bit of a starter burrow. She did excavate it a little bit, so she can just go in there, but more than enough room. Look, it's not a burrowing species. They do tend to hide underneath the cork bark, and she never really goes under the cork bark. She's always out and about. But yeah, that's more than enough as far as I'm concerned anyway. If someone disagrees, you think I'm doing it wrong, give me your advice in the comments, and obviously as to what you think I should be doing differently. I'm not going to take anything offensively. It's all constructive. I'm learning as well. There are loads of people out there with way more experience, so I'm not always going to be right. I might be doing things wrong, but I'd like to know about it, so just drop it in the comments below. That would be fantastic. Burrow always out, couple of inches of substrate at the front, slightly up at the back, always out, and that's more than enough for them. Pretty fine. So yeah, that's a beautiful little platyoma there. Not a platyoma, sorry, that's up there. That's a cascada. So yeah, so that's my take on the husbandry. Again, I miss down enclosures. Some of them I just give a water dish, like the Brachypelma species. Obviously being from Mexico, it is quite warm all the time. I just give them a water dish, fill the water dish. I never miss their enclosure. I just give them a water dish, overfill it every now and again. For other species like Chilobrachys electric blue, I'll mist it, leave it to dry out, and then when it's drying out, mist it down again, and as well as giving it a little water dish as well. And the same for like all of my Asian arboreals as well. I'll give them a mist as they're drying out, let them dry out, fill the water dish up, spray them again. So yeah, so that's pretty much it really. I tend to keep most of my arboreals the same, tend to keep most of my terrestrials the same, tend to keep most of my fossorials the same. Obviously there are just some that I do need to improve on, but I know I'm doing it. And again, like I say, I'm not perfect with it. I am still learning. Any feedback you want to give will be welcomed. You know, I don't take offence. It's all constructive. Constructive criticism is good. You know, it's the only way people improve. Thinking that you're doing everything right, thinking that you're the best at something, doesn't work. You know, everyone can improve no matter what you're doing, and I think it's important to help people out and do that. So if there's any people who are just starting the hobby, there's my advice. Maybe right, maybe wrong. Hopefully it's more right than wrong. For those who are more experienced, and maybe more experienced than me, probably are, if there is anything major that you think that I'm doing wrong, let me know. I can improve. But yeah, that's it. So that's all I wanted to do, guys. Again, just to mention that we are at the show on Sunday, so if you're there, come along and say hello. We're going to be doing a live stream at 2 o'clock on Sunday for raffle winners for Invert Pets UK Facebook group. On that live stream, there won't just be myself, it'll be me hosting the live stream. However, there will be Scott from Scott's Inverts, who also created the Invert Pets UK group. There'll be myself from obviously Alternative Inverts, who's an admin on the group. There will be another admin, Amy, from Pet Rock and Roll. And also, if we can get Sam away from the Rum and all of the women, then Sam from Bug Realms will also be on the live stream as well. And we'll be doing a quick little tour maybe of the sneak peek of the show, and doing the raffle giveaway as well from the group, which is for £40 to spend at the Spider Shop, whoever wins. And it was £1 a number for £1 a number, and you could have a max of 3 numbers per person. So good luck to everybody for that. If you're at the show, come and say hello. If you see us when you see us on the live stream, come and say hello while we're on the live stream. Give yourself a shout out, whatever. Love it. And yeah, that's pretty much us. We'll catch you again. Hopefully in a few days' time I'll have the footage if this is successful pairing. So it's currently ongoing at the moment. Just waiting for the female to come out the hide. The male's down there somewhere, wherever he is. The male's down there and she's in there. So hopefully we'll get something to show you guys. If not, I'll upload a video anyway, so you can see the attempt, and that will be next. What else have we got coming up? Keep your eyes peeled for a pickups video. It's been requested by a couple of people that I do another feeding video as well, so I'll try and throw in a few feeding clips. And yeah, the rehousing of our Cyriopagopus lividus and our Cyriopagopus minax as well. So there'll be the rehousing videos. Might get Rach on some video to help me out doing something as well soon. She's a bit shy, but I keep telling her tough, she's got to do it. So yeah, that's enough of me babbling on, I think. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to hear feedback from people, and I'll see you again soon, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.